Hey, George.
Hey, Rebecca.
How are you?
You're in your hotel room?
Yeah.
You know,
Are you
I'm
on
at
your
my,
cruise?
no, we're actually at my mother-in-law's, and
Oh, okay.
I was supposed to be on my way to the hotel, hotel right now, but we're behind schedule, so I'm going to wait till after the meeting.
Gotcha.
And congratulations on your son.
That was me. That was
Oh,
me getting my MBA.
oh, wow. Okay. I thought it was your son's. Okay.
No, it was
Congratulations.
mine.
Congratulations on yours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
My son
I,
is next year, so we're getting
Oh,
there.
I thought yours was a couple weeks ago.
I finished a couple weeks ago, but I actually walked.
Oh, okay.
Yep. My
No,
family convinced me I should put on the cap and gown and walk, so I did.
I'm sure you're very happy about it too. It takes a
Yeah,
lot of
it
work,
was a good experience to do that.
and doing it at 50 versus at 25 is a big difference.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Did you get to look at the agendas and all?
A little bit. Yeah. You?
Yes, it's going to be interesting.
Uh-huh. Is Wayne? I don't see Wayne in there yet.
Wayne's right next to Maggie.
Oh, there he is. Okay. Hello. We'll give it 1 minute and then we'll start.
Yep.
Is Larry Diamond in there?
Yeah, Larry just sent me an email
Yeah, I see
saying
him.
that
Hello,
my
Larry Diamond.
Brian Borish is on.
Mm-hmm.
Peter's on.
Yep. All right. So let's get the agenda and we'll begin. All right. It is 5:30. Are we ready to call the meeting to order?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, awesome. So if we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Patricia, can we please have a roll call?
Rebecca Baer,
I am present.
Rick Andrews,
Here.
Wayne Roner,
Here.
Rich Lamus.
Present.
Oh, okay. Present.
All right. Let
George.
me get my agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting, May 12th, as presented?
So moved. You hear that?
I heard one. Is there a
So-
second?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. A motion to approve the minutes from our previous meeting?
So moved.
Awesome. Second?
Second.
Awesome. All right. So if all are in favor, our first item is the purchase of 4 Cisco PoE switches to power additional cameras that the district was awarded with a PCCD grant from Integra One. Brian, is there anything we need to know about that?
No, that just kind of coincides with the next item, the cameras.
Okay. So we'll go with the second item, and it's approved the purchase of 56 Cisco Meraki cameras and accompanying 10-year licenses from Integra One, and that's paid for by the grant. So we are we're getting the grant for $98,000, if I'm understanding that correctly, and then spending an additional $46,524 for the
That's
switch.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, both of those are fully funded through the PCCD grant, and there's additional items that were in that grant that were requested.
And the cameras are for what?
So the big part of the PCCD grant lines are to address Pennsylvania's level 1 physical security baseline criteria. There were gaps identified in the most recent physical threat assessments. So Chief Mill, his school police officers, and applicable building principals found some we would say are some areas in need of cameras. Not many, it's 56, but there's 10 schools, so there's really a handful per school just to kind of fill in some gaps.
Still seems like-
Anybody have any questions in regards to the cameras that we're purchasing?
Yeah, Brian. Are these mostly for interior?
It's a split. If you look at the accompanying quote, it'll give you the breakout in your board backup. The 72 are the models that 72 are the outside cameras.
Okay. Because I'm aware of a number of blind spots at the North High School campus. Those blind areas will be taken care of.
That's my understanding from the threat assessment that Chief Mill performed.
So there's 21, the 72s, Brian, are exterior,
Yes, that is correct.
21 exterior and 35 interior.
Is there a breakdown per school building?
I'm sure we can provide that. We obviously don't want to, since it's a school safety item, we don't want to provide that as public backup, but we can get that to Dr. Vitale and she can get that to the board members.
Okay, for the executive session.
Yeah, I'll have
That's
that for
fine.
executive session. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you for the questions. Good questions. The next item is to approve the renewal contract for custom student RFID cards at the cost of $14,238. So are those just the normal cards that we use, or are those the ones that they're supposed to be able to scan on the buses?
They're the ones that you use to scan on the buses as well. They're the cards that we, that every student receives.
Okay.
The
Are we going to start
on-
using them on the buses?
We started using them for everybody, I want to say March, if not February.
Okay. Because I know in the past we paid to have them, but weren't using them. I'm glad we're using them. Awesome. Any other questions in regards to that contract?
I did not hear any.
Okay. And then we have the renewal of the contract from Brightly Software Suite in the amount of $30,092.38. Any questions in regards to the Brightly software? Dr. Vitale, what does Brightly software do?
So Brightly Software is an asset management system as well. Brightly is the new name of School Dude. If you remember School Dude. So it's an asset management system as well as an event management system that we use for use of facilities and asset management for what we have on property.
Okay. So will parents eventually be able to pay for field trips through this app, or will they still have to send checks or cash in?
I do not believe this is a payment system.
Okay.
That typically be done through our student information system if we upgraded, but I don't know if Sapphire has those capabilities. That is not what Brightly does.
Okay, gotcha. 'Cause
Yep.
I know that was also something that we had spoken about, was being able for families to use an app-based method to pay for field trips and such, rather than sending in paper checks or cash. Okay. Any other questions in regards to Brightly?
I do not hear any.
Thank you, Dr. Vitale.
You're welcome.
And then approve the purchase of 17 Glock 19 Gen 5 MOS COA with Aimpoint COS optic, non-titanium front and rear sights, 3 to 15 round magazines, 9mm from Whitmer Public Safety Group. And I'm assuming this is because our school resource officers were using their own and now we're providing them so they're all uniform.
Correct. This is part of our SPO agreement that we
Mhm.
approved in April. So we're able to move forward on this, and we want to move forward on it as soon as possible because I'm being told that there's a several month delay before it'll be on property.
And I'm glad we're gonna have uniform carries for all officers rather than having them provide their own. And I feel, me personally, I feel this is better, but
I agree.
so. Any other questions in regards to that?
No.
Okay. And approve the contract renewal for Vector Solutions for the 25-26 school year, in the amount of $8,229. Vector Security, correct? Like, or monitoring?
Vector Solutions is an online platform for professional learning. So
Oh, okay. On the-
for some of those like mandated professional learning that teachers need or support staff need, they can go on that, do that, and go through the system.
Okay, perfect. And that's like, is that for all the licenses we need, or is it just like
That's
a
for
blanket
everything.
one forever?
Yep, that's for everything that we need.
Awesome. Okay. Any other questions in regards to the Vector Solutions renewal?
No.
Okay. Now we have the insurance package renewal from our broker Engel, Hambright and Davies, totaling $1,233,126 across all lines of coverage.
Actually, this number came in a little bit lower. This afternoon, I went back to the broker and had them go to our carriers to get the number down a little bit more. I sent an email out to the board committee members mid-afternoon. The total updated number is $1,212,442 even. And
Okay.
that's for all lines of coverage.
It's still about a 15% increase, isn't it?
It's not a 50% increase, no, George. It's about,
15.
who's,
He said 15.
oh, 15. I thought 15. I thought you said 15. No, it's about it's around a 15% increase, yes.
Okay.
What's driving the increases is the property coverage as well as the business auto coverage, which is driving driving the coverage increases.
Okay. I'm going to ask you, Peter, to remember that number for me when we move it forward, because I don't have a pen and paper handy in my hotel room.
Okay.
So, awesome. The next item is our.
One second, I'd like to ask a question,
Oh,
Rebecca.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
It's okay. Is there a definition for the terrorism coverage is currently rejected on all policies? So, how will they define terrorism should we end up with some kind of vandalism?
There's coverage that is already baked into these other lines of service in the coverage. So that's why terrorism is rejected. It's rejected by every school district across the state. There's already coverage that's already baked into the individual lines.
So that's well defined.
Yeah, it's well defined inside the coverage. It's rejected by
Okay.
every school district across the Commonwealth. It's redundant coverage. That's why it's rejected.
Okay.
Okay.
Question. All right, Rebecca, H, I think we're at.
Yes, this is the general fund budget.
Correct. And I will present the options 1, 2, and 3 in the presentation so we could skip over H until I get to the presentation and we can
Okay.
talk about the options at that particular point.
Sounds good. So that we'll skip that. And we're looking for the reschedule of the October 13th, 2025 Finance Committee meeting.
So that is a school closure day.
Okay.
School is closed because of Columbus Day, Indigenous People Day, whatever the name of it is today. But the second Monday in October. So we're just asking that since school is closed, if we can just all be off that day.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? Because I'm off of work too. Let's see. So when do we want to make it? Is that what we're looking at to do now, or are we just going to?
We can discuss it now. So I don't know if we just want to move it to Tuesday.
I'm just checking my calendar. Hold on.
The 14th. I don't want to make it the week before because the week before then we wouldn't hit PNF.
EPR.
and EPR, it would be before that.
Can I have that date again? I'm sorry.
October 14th is what we're looking at. It's a Tuesday.
Fourteenth. I guess we can, yeah. Tuesday, the 14th.
Okay,
I'm okay with that.
perfect.
As of right now, it looks good. I'll have to, let you know, but it's far out, but yeah, let's go for it.
All right.
Tentatively, October 14th. All right. Our next item on the agenda is the feasibility study. I'm going to turn that over to you, Maggie, because I know you're working on that, Dr. Vitale. So
Absolutely. So we advertised for an RFP for a feasibility study, and we had talked about this as a board, that we really wanted to look at the utilization of our buildings, as well as enrollment trends, as well as capital projects. We had 8 different architecture firms submit one. We did a pretty rigorous rubric process, and we interviewed the top 3. And this is the top one that we are proposing. And they come to us with a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge in this space. This is what they do professionally. This seems to be their bread and butter, whereas some of the other firms seem like this is the avenue that they get to build. It didn't feel that way in this meeting. They have specialists who are certified. I can't remember the initials and I don't have it in front of me. It's an A for RL. It's something with educational space. There's only 10 certified people in this country that have that certification, and she is one of them, and she would be on the team. And they basically will come, they do lots of focus groups about how we want our buildings utilized with different stakeholder groups. They do surveys and studies, building utilization. They analyze the full building, and they come back to us with recommendations. And the phrase that really caught me was that we're not done until you have a plan. So they're not just going to give us information and walk out the door. They're really going to help us make informed decisions about how our facilities are going to be used, renovated for kind of a long-term plan model. And RLPS was the best one that we interviewed. So we're asking the finance committee to move forward with this to the board.
But my question is, when reading it, we're actually only looking for 25,000 about, and we can cancel if we wanted to after that initial go around. Am I correct?
So the whole project is about $24,500.
Yes.
Yes.
Before we have to make a decision whether we're going to go forward on that. Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't invest any more so the project itself is 24,500. If we decide on a build or some sort of construction or renovation, that's a whole nother process.
Okay.
They would be the ones recommending kind of what solutions we could look at to best utilize our schools.
And they're going to look at all of those 10 or 12 different areas that they showed on their proposal.
Correct. Yes.
As I say, looks like a pretty fair price.
I thought so too. And Mr. Schlamus was with us with the interviews. So.
Rich, was there anything you wanted to add or anything like that since you were part of the process?
No, I think we selected the best fit for our organization. Their proposal and their conversation was very good. I think they have the right team to help us through the process.
Awesome. Wayne, any questions or anything
No.
for Rich or Dr. Vitale?
No, but thank you. I know this was a last minute ad because we did the interviews last week. So thank you for even considering putting it on. But my hope is that if the board approves, we can move forward and get this process started sooner than later.
And I'm guessing it's easier to do a feasibility study during the summer when the buildings aren't open so they can actually tour them and look at them when there's no students in there?
They'll actually do it both times because they actually want to see what it looks like with students. So
Okay.
So they even look at flow of hallways during change of class. It's not just numbers on paper of whether you're at capacity or not. It's also how the building is utilized for educational programming. So they'll do a lot of that this summer, but they will also be on site with students in the buildings to see what it looks like.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Okay, very cool. All right. Peter, it's all you.
All right. So I shared my screen. So I could do the budget presentation now. So I shared it. Can you guys see it on the Zoom?
No,
Yes, we can.
oh, we can't see it in the room.
Oh, I shared it on the screen.
There we go.
All right, well, I'm on the, so I'm gonna start with the 2025-2026 budget presentation here, so. No, those things aren't working. It wasn't,
Whoops, it's jumping around.
yeah, I don't know, it's not, it's on my screen, it's not, it's. All right, the clicker's not working, but that's all right. So we're gonna start the 2026 budget tonight with the changes in expenses from the preliminary budget to the to this from the last budget presentation. There was an overall net increase of $619,000. The beginning part of that was the healthcare costs increase. We talked a little bit about this before. However, the healthcare costs increased 13% year over year. The year over year means from 2024, 2025 to 25, 26. In the previous budget presentations, it was 11%. This so it went up 2%, which is approximately an increase of $500,000. The increased electricity cost was $361,000 and an increased cyber cost of $600,000. To offset some of these costs, to bring it down to $619,000, we had some attritional savings of $342,075 and a decreased budgetary reserve of $500,000. So the budgetary reserve is now set in the budget at $250,000. Prior to this, the budgetary reserve in the budget was set at $750,000. The reserve is set at $250,000. Historically, the reserve in the budget was set at $1 million. So now it's set at $250,000. You guys have plenty of unreserved fund balance to cover any unseen budgetary expenses. So I believe that is a fair number to keep in there. So there has been some movement on the district was notified on May 1st that we are getting a $991,000 increase overall in the homestead farmstead exemption. And what that means,
This is really good news.
this is extremely good
There
news.
should be like balloons on this.
Yeah, there's so
Look at how excited I am. I just
this is
broke my microphone.
extremely positive news. So for the second straight year, the district did receive an increase in the amount of money that homeowners will receive in tax breaks to their tax bill. So in 24-25, they received $679.81 tax break. This year, it's going up to $785.72, and that will be an increased savings of $105.91, or a per month savings of $8.83 per month. So that is an exceptionally large amount of money that they were going to get back in their approval to across to every homeowner that was approved. So that is a big savings that the district, that homeowners that receive homestead farmstead will be receiving. So that's a very, very good news to the district and very good news to the homeowners that desperately need it here, that own a single home in the district. So let's talk about some of the budgetary options that the board has for this coming year, and how the homestead farmstead number plays a role into that. So option one is a 0% tax increase. That is not increasing any taxes whatsoever. The Monroe County millage rate was 31.05, and that will stay the same. But the Pike County millage rate was 126.05, and that will increase due to step rebalancing. And the Rebalancing Act is because of we are a multi-county district, and because of being a multi-county district, when the assessment values change, the state requires you to rebalance the millage rate to make it balanced among both counties. Pike County being a non-reassessed county, so that's why that plays into it a little bit as well. So if you look at the annual increase, Monroe County would see a no tax increase, while Pike County would see an annual increase of $3.68. With the homestead farmstead, it would actually be a decrease in their tax bills, with the homestead approved homes receiving a decrease of 102.23, with Monroe County and the approved homeowners receiving a 105.91 decrease. And you see the average assessment value of a Monroe County home at 106,900 and a Pike County at 23,200. Or excuse me, 23,200. I want to make sure I was clear on that. So that goes to show you that. However, this would have a revenue loss, a real estate revenue loss to the district of $1.6 million. So what that is the $1.6 million, how we come up with that is the lost revenue that we have through tax assessment appeals, primarily commercial properties. And that is in particular the Exploria property that we we had a settlement on the assessment appeal of the Exploria property. That is a top 10 tax property in the district. And so that is where that $1.6 million loss revenue would come into. So let's look at the overall summary for option one. The revenue would be at $188 million. The expenditures would be at $212 million with a projected deficit of $23.5 million. The general fund balance that is as of June 30th, 2024, $51.2 million, with assigned funds to balance the current year budget at $17.4 million, with funds to balance the 25-26 budget at $23.4 million, leaving the ending general fund balance at $10.3 million. However, the anticipated fund balance that we're looking at for this year is somewhere between 6 and 7 million. I put 7 million in there to be conservative in there, but I do believe we'll end up somewhere around $7 million for the ending deficit for this year, leaving the ending fund balance at 20.7 million or close to 20.8 million for the ending general fund balance for this option and option one. So as we go through the different options, this is the worst case scenario for the district in this particular situation due to the fact that you're losing revenue from the assessment appeals. There are also pending assessment appeals on the Shawnee Golf Course as well that is not taking into effect, that we will settle at some point during the 25-26 fiscal year, where we will lose some revenue, some local real estate revenue in that case as well. So this is the worst case scenario here with this. So as I look at, so are there any questions from any board members on option one or the homestead farmstead data that I presented at this point? I don't have. Okay. I don't hear any. So let's go to option two, the 2% tax increase. The Monroe County 2% tax increase raised their.
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I couldn't on the 23 million. It says it's projected, right?
Yes.
And anticipated, but will it not? Are we not really anticipating it being less than 23 million as the year? But this year is 7 million versus 17. In other words, are we looking more like 13 or in reality, or am I wrong there?
Mr. Andrews, of course, this is when you're budgeting, you budget conservative on you budget aggressively on the expenses in hopes that you don't realize the full deficit, but you have to be preparing for that type of case scenario, and you hope you land somewhere like we're going to land this year. So you budget this for the $17 million deficit, and you come in at 7. That's a great landing spot. That's a very positive landing spot. Of course, you're budgeting the 23.4 million in hopes that you come in at $13.5 million, and that way you extend your fund balance out. So anytime you're talking about having to raise revenue, that revenue compounds itself over the time period. So yes, of course, you're looking at wanting to come in less than the $23.5 million deficit, but you have to plan that out as the worst case scenario. So yes, you strive you make every effort to strive not to come in at 23.4 million. But yes, this is the worst case scenario option.
That was my question. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So when you look at the option 2 for the 2% tax increase, this would raise the Monroe County millage rate to 31.59 and the Pike County millage rate to 128.42. And so this would be the annual increase per homeowner would be $57.72. The Pike County increase would be $55.01. But with the Homestead Farmstead homeowners would actually still see a decrease in their year-over-year tax bill of $48.19 for Monroe County, $47.22 for Pike County. And this would bring in the same revenue, real estate revenue, and would make up for the $1.6 million that was lost due to the Exploria tax assessment loss. So in this scenario, the district would recoup the $1.6 million that was lost. And if you look at what would it bring in for the tax increase on a monthly basis, it would be $4.81 for Monroe County, $4.58 monthly for a resident in Pike County. But with the Homestead Farmstead reduction, it would be still a $4.02 savings or a $3.94 savings per month on a homeowner that had the Homestead Farmstead reduction in there, and you would make up for the revenue that was lost via the tax assessment loss that we suffered. And I stress this a lot over and over again. While you may not need the tax revenue this year, the revenue compounds itself, similar to when you do not raise revenue, it compounds itself in the negative when you leave it on the table, so to speak. And so this is the option 2. So when we look at what the budget summary looks like for option 2, the revenue would increase to $190 million, a little over $190 million. The expenditures would stay the same for the projected deficit of $21.8 million, leaving the ending general fund balance with everything else being equal compared to the previous slides at $22.3 million. Continues to buy you some time to get us to a softer landing spot. When you start chipping away at the structural deficit of the budget. Like Mr. Andrews' question a couple of minutes ago, this is the aggressive budget and the worst case scenario. So you could come in lower than that, of course. You could also come in closer to that and not have the $10 million deficit or the $10 million difference in the budget because of other things that come up, such as not meeting the revenue goals or structure that you guys have because of the interest rates in the market coming down and things of that nature that we're planning on as well. So you have to take all those into consideration. So on option 2, are there any questions from the board members on option number 2, the 2% tax increase? Okay, I don't hear any, so let's go to option 3.
So it looks to me, if I'm understanding it correctly, on option 2, even with the homestead, homeowners aren't going to feel that 2%.
They're actually,
for the most part.
They're still going to have about $47 to $48 in savings with the Homestead Farmstead.
That's
Okay.
correct.
I just want to make sure I was understanding that correctly and seeing it correctly on the screen.
Yeah, we added a lot of words on there just to try to give people context to it.
Yes.
And that was my doing, not Pete, so I apologize for that.
No. I just want to make sure I understood that it was still taxes were going up, but if it was a second home, obviously they would feel it go up because they don't qualify for the Homestead Farmstead.
Correct. Homestead Farmstead is only your primary residence.
Correct.
Yep.
So they would still get it on their primary residence, but not their secondary residence, and commercial properties would pay the increase. And so we will go to option number 3, which is the 3.5% tax increase, which would be Monroe's millage rate would go to 32.13. Pike County's residents would go to 130.59. And that would increase your revenue to $3.2 million. And in this scenario, the Monroe County residents would increase by $116, and Pike County would by $105 in some sense. But with the Homestead Farmstead deduction, it would only be $10 in some sense for Monroe County and Pike County, a $3.14 increase on their primary residence per month, $9.68 per month for Monroe, $8.78 for Pike, with only a per month increase of 85 cents for Monroe and 26 cents for Pike. And the district would receive $3.2 million in increased revenue. I also want you to take note too, when you guys are looking at this as board members and members of the public, the revenue increase compared to the deficit for future years is paltry compared to the deficit. If the deficit numbers are realized in full, it's going to be very, very difficult to tax the way out of it. So I just want you guys to take, so you guys are in a good spot right now. I want you guys to stay in that good spot. So let's look at the option 3, 25-26 budget summary. The revenue at 191.7 million. The expenditures stay the same. Your projected deficit is 20.2 million. And then your ending general fund balance would be 23.9 million, or close to $24 million. So once again, you are extending out your runway for a safe landing spot without going into financial distress, as is defined. And so therefore you don't have to, as like Mr. Andrews asked, this is a even more favorable financial picture in this respect. So I will also, before I ask for questions, I'm going to show you, oh, well, actually there's more slides, I'm sorry. I have a chart in these slides that will show you a comparison for all these deficits and the increases per month that will summarize these much cleaner so you don't have to remember all these individually as we go through these. So hold on to that when we get to that. So I just want to, so you guys don't have to worry about writing these down and remembering these. There is a slide that will show you these in a comparison. So on option 3, do any members of the board have any comments or questions about option number 3 before I move on to the individual comparisons via object comparisons from last year to this year?
I'm good.
I don't.
Okay. Hearing none, we're going to go on to the expenditure details. So the salaries are 88.1 million, which is a 2.6% increase. The benefits are 63.4 million, or a 5.6% increase. The professional and technical services are just over $11 million, or a 13.6% increase. The purchase property services are just under $2.5 million, or a 12.2% increase. The other purchases services are 16.2%, or 16.2 million, or just under a 7% increase from year over year. The supplies are 9.6 million, or a 1.7% increase. That includes electricity, natural gas, water, and school supplies. So please, people that are just seeing this number for the first time, that is not just paper, pens, notebooks, things of that nature. That is all of our supplies that go into that. Excuse me. The property is 2.8 million, or a 14% increase. That includes our Chromebooks and purchases of a technological nature. And the other object or debt service is $18.7 million, or a decrease of 4.1% from one year to the next. So here are the comparison chart that I promised you about a minute and a half ago. If I'm being long-winded, maybe longer than a minute and a half ago. This will show you the 3 options that the board that I presented, that the administration is presenting, to show you which option to pick. Now, the PDE form that is in your agenda is option number 1. I could easily create an option 2 or 3, depending on what the committee pushes forward tonight, and I could advertise that after May 19th. So whatever the board decides to do is very easily done and possible. So don't think that you're committed to having me committed to option 1, but I did do the option 1 for you guys tonight. But as you can see, option 1 has the negative monthly increase of negative $8, or just under $9 for both Monroe and Pike. Option 2 has a negative monthly increase of a negative $4 and just under $4. And option 3 has just a small monthly impact on the primary homeowners of those who apply for homestead farmstead in those particular districts. And remember, the financial impact of raising revenue continues further on down the line. So In all these cases, whatever option you pick, there are implications down the road. So does any board members have any questions on the last three slides that I have presented, and particularly this comparison option slide?
So if I'm understanding correctly, looking at your screenshots, so if we look at, for example, option 2, the 481 is what the increase would be, but because of the homestead farmstead rebate, which is negative 402, and so because of the rebate, they're getting a credit of 402 rather than paying the extra increase.
Overall, a Monroe County resident, because of the homestead farmstead, would get $8.83. If we raise taxes 2%, out of that additional money, 4.8 would come to the district, and then families would still save $4 basically in Pike and Monroe County
Gotcha.
from that allotment. So a 2%
Gotcha.
increase, people are still feeling a savings.
Okay, so 883 is what the credit would be if we did absolutely nothing, but if we raised it 2%, instead of getting 883, they'd get 402 of a
Correct.
credit for Monroe, and then Pike would be 852 credit if we did absolutely nothing, but if we raised it 2, they would get a credit of 394 a month.
Yes, and then if we raised it 3.5%, it would be an overall increase of 85 cents and 26 cents respectively.
Per month.
Per month.
Correct, yep.
That's what you gotta convince people of, is that they're not getting rid, with the homestead, that they're actually still getting a decrease.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
If we did 2, yeah.
I think it's important to mention a few things. One is that while the Homestead Act is good for homeowners, it's not necessarily good for renters and folks who own property and then have to turn that over to the folks that they're renting to. The other piece to know is that while the median home price is shown as $160,000, many of that's the halfway point. There's a number of homeowners who are above that and who will not see any of their Homestead Farmstead Act reduce their tax bill. They're only going to see it reduce that portion that they pay. And so there's still going to be an increased amount assessed to that homeowner that's not going to be covered by the Homestead Farmstead Act. So I just want to say that this isn't going to be seen equally across all taxpayers.
Correct.
Correct. Yeah, so we take the mean, right? Like we take the average cost of a house and assessed value.
Okay, and then my comment for this preliminary budget, I printed out a copy of the final general fund budget that we would be sending to the Pennsylvania Department of Education. I was excited to see that we were not going to raise taxes for the school year of 2025, 2026. That excited me.
Well, depends which option we do.
I understand that, but I'm just making comments on what I'm looking at. My other recommendation is that we could, as a school district, enter 0 for committed funds for future expenses. And we could put 0 in for assigned funds for future expenses that is totaling $18 million. I've got a lot of future expenses committed and assigned, and I'm not a fan of that accounting principle at this point in time. That's all I have to say.
I don't know if you have the information, Peter, or not, but in previous years, do you know what we put for committed and assigned? Like for 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
I don't have that information in front of me. I can get it for you for the next meeting and have that prepared for you. The reason you put fund balance into committed and assigned is because the state does not allow you to have more than 12% of your funds in unassigned fund balance. And when you have more than 12% of your funds in unassigned fund balance, there could be repercussions with the state. And so that is why you put money in your assigned and committed funding balances. You can make that reason anything you want to make it when you put your reasons in there. But if you can't have more than 12% of your fund balance into unassigned fund balances. So while the district has $51 million in total fund balances, you can't have more, you can't have that much money into your unassigned fund balance. It has to be less than 12% of your, or it might even be 8% of your total expenditure budget. So while and then the superintendent has to sign off that it is under that.
And that doesn't change our expenditures.
No, it doesn't change
No.
our expenditures at all.
I thought it was 8%, but you could be right on as well.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the code now. It is
It's 8%. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at the article now. So you could change it as to whatever it is, you could change the committed or assigned to whatever language, to any reasons you want it to be. But, and that's the reason why you do it to assigned and committed.
There is no reason to change on the assigned and committed funds. There's zero reason to do that right now.
I agree, Rich.
That's all right. We can agree to disagree, but I understand that 18 million comes off of my ending fund balance, so.
It's not
I'm
your
not a fan
ending
of
fund
that.
balance, it's the district's fund balance. And there's not 18 million. It's just there's dollars that we're going to use that to cover the deficit, and that's what it is.
Okay. I know how I intend to vote.
So what are our discussions? What are we thinking about as a finance committee? What are our thoughts?
Is there
Because we
any
don't-
way we can pull, what is, I think I'd like to see if we're able to extract a little bit more off of the expense side. Is there any movement to reduce the expenses of the district, represent something that's a little more true to the game?
So we are doing everything we can of looking at positions through attrition and retirements. I mean, honestly, I'm looking at almost every contract that we have, seeing if we can decrease some of the contracts, and we're having some luck with that, but it's slow and steady, right? So it's like one contract at a time as I come across them and kind of look at how we can renegotiate or decrease because perhaps there was some excess in spending. So do I believe that that will be our deficit and what we really spend next year? No, but have I been here long enough to give you an actual number of what I can cut this budget down? I'm not comfortable making those promises right now.
What I found interesting with the increases in the budget was how much we pay for outside services.
The other is charter
Went up a
school.
lot.
If we bring some charter school kids back into our district, that'll be a big chunk each time we do that.
Even what we send to IU is a lot.
So Mr. Andrews, I completely agree with you. And I can tell you that it's going to be a mission of mine to bring back a certain number of them, right? Even if we bring back 10%, 37 families, which is a huge savings for us. But I don't want to bake that into the budget because that's not guaranteed right now. So I could call every family, sit down and have coffee with every single family, and all of them could tell me to go pound sand. So I don't want to change that number. I want to be optimistic that at least 10% will come back, but I can't guarantee it. So until I start to feel that and to see a trend of it, I'm just not comfortable adjusting it.
Well, but we're starting the pre-K with our charter school this year, right?
We do not have a charter school. We're starting kindergarten with our cyber academy.
I'll
Yes,
be with our cyber, yeah.
correct. Absolutely.
So that hopefully, whether it's this year or the coming years, will change that number of dollars we have to spend in charter schools.
I agree with you, and I can tell you at this time next year, I would love to come and say, listen, oh my gosh, we realized way more savings because of blah, 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 and this many families came back. I can't guarantee anything. I met with all of our Osaka personnel on Friday at length, talking about challenges and what they're facing and how to overcome it and how to welcome more families in. And they are all completely on board and committed to that program. And I believe we can welcome more families in and we would want them to come in. I don't have a number for it.
I understand. And we're
Hey,
trying to
Dr.
be
Benjamin,
conservative.
how about all the money we spend, that extra increase that went to the IU and all those other outside services? I noticed that went up a lot too.
So I mean, there's twofold. So there's the complexity of student needs that we're just not able to service here. And by us bringing in additional programs. So when we look at bringing in autistic support, so every autistic support program that we bring in is one teacher, 3 paraprofessionals for 8 students. And when we bring those 4 personnel in, we're bringing in their healthcare, we're bringing in their PCERs, we're bringing in all of their expenses. So there is a cost analysis that we need to do with the amount of IU programming. That's one thing I haven't really dug in yet. I'm super excited for our new assistant superintendent to come on. And that will be one of their goals, is to dig into that of IU programming versus district programming and do a cost analysis and see if there's a savings for it. There probably is not a savings, but there is something to be said about having them in home schools. But that would just add cost to our budget as opposed to a contracted service. Typically, it's cheaper to go out for contracted services. Also, some of that is AEDY and students who are placed there because they have violated our code of conduct and because their behavior warrants it. And that is something I would say, hopefully as a board, that we're not comfortable moving back from, that we are comfortable continually placing those students who need that placement.
Thank you for the clarification on that.
These are not easy solutions and not easy questions or problems to solve. Because we're talking about students' lives and programming, and we don't want our budgetary constraints to impact programming on the negative. So we're really looking at where to go back to Rich's comment, how we can trim the budget without truly impacting programming. But if we continue with the projected deficit, our administrative team is probably this time next year, if we realize this deficit, we're going to start coming and talking about, hey, we need to cut and we need to cut programs. So I'm avoiding that for right now until kind of I go a full cycle with the budget and see it, but we could get to that point, but I don't know if we're doom and gloom there right now.
Okay.
Any other questions, thoughts, or concerns?
Nope. So guys, thoughts on our options? What are we presenting to the full board?
And can I also offer the option of presenting all 3 options to the full board? So you can make a recommendation, but you could also present all 3 options and then we vote each one individually.
That's what I would like to see. Then everybody has an equal say. All 9 of us.
So with Dr. Vitale, with your recommendation, do we move forward what our recommendation is, but also present the other 2, or just move forward all 3? How would you recommend us do that?
Personally, I would recommend of doing all 3.
Okay. So we'll move forward all 3 options. Okay.
I'll
All
prepare all 3 PD forms and have them marked so that Mr. Catrillo could sign whatever one the board presents as the one to go forward.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
And I just want to highlight that this is Pete's last finance committee meeting with us. So we should be very grateful for his service to our district and leading us through all of the uncharted waters of new leadership and all the changes that have happened in our district, and just be grateful for his service to the district. So thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Pete. We wish you luck in your next endeavor with your new school district.
And you're going to miss your super.
Absolutely. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You'll
And
miss us, Pete.
well, you guys are, listen, you guys are a great school board, and I will address you guys on the 19th when I present this. But yeah, you guys are a great school board. You guys have tough, difficult decisions. I don't envy you guys at all.
So I have one other question.
Yes, sir.
How are we right now with our current fiscal year? In my last 10 years, I traditionally have been dealing with a surplus. How is our fiscal year turning out? Where we stand right now?
Like I mentioned in the presentation, we're going to be somewhere between a deficit of $6 and $7 million. So it's not going to have a surplus. You're going to have a deficit.
Okay.
So our next item on the agenda, if there's no other questions in regards to this, we have the recommendations from the Properties and Facilities Committee. I'm going to read all of them, which is LJC janitorial distribution, a notice to proceed, which is, with the JTL data network replacement, SME boiler replacement, North Phase 2 stormwater repairs, JTL boiler and hot water heater replacement. And then we have some bid tabulations also from the similar projects with the JTL data network replacement from Guyette Communications, JTL boiler and hot water replacement from JBM Mechanical, SME boiler replacement, JBM Mechanical, and the North Phase 2 stormwater repairs from Rutledge Excavating. And then we have the CHA invoices, which are from JTL partial floor replacement, Resica partial floor replacement, JM Hill partial floor replacement, and the ESE sprinkler replacement. And then we have our payments for May, which are listed on the agenda, which I'm waiting for my computer to load, but it's not. So I'm going to hope everybody read those. Any questions in regards to the recommendations from Properties and Facilities?
No.
Okay. Next, we have several recommendations from the EPR committee. We have the recommendation to approve Vista products for the ELD program from grade 6 through 12. We have recommendations to approve the purchase of GW Publisher products for the Family Consumer Science programs 6 through 12, for High School North materials and for High School South materials, which also includes the JTL programs built and Lehman built in, and recommendations to purchase GW Publisher for the business programs 9 through 12 for both schools. Any questions in regards to those?
No.
Okay. We have public participation. I don't see anybody online, but is there anybody in the building that would like to public participation?
Mr. Earl, Mr. Diamond?
I
Nope.
see Mr. Diamond nodding his head no, if I can tell
They're just
by the back of his head going
lucky-
side to side.
So thorough, they have no questions.
Okay. All right. So with that being said, we'll make our motions to move items forward. So let me scroll back up to the top here. All right. So do we have a motion to move forward the two items that go together, A and B, which are the purchase of 4 Cisco PoE switches to power the additional cameras and the purchase of 56 Cisco Meraki cameras and accompanying 10-year licenses, which are paid for by the PCCD grant?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. A motion to move forward the approval of the renewal contract for custom student RFID ID cards.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Awesome. A motion to renew the contract for Brightly Software Suite.
So moved. Aye.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Approve the purchase of 17 Glock 19 Gen 5 MOS COA with Aimpoint COS optic, non-titanium front and rear sights, 3 15-round magazines, 9mm Whitmer public safety through the CoStar's bid.
So move.
Second.
Aye.
That was a
Aye.
mouthful. Thank you.
Sorry, guys.
Approve the contract renewal for Vector Solutions.
So moved.
Okay. And we're
Second.
in favor.
Aye.
Perfect. Approve the insurance package renewal for the lower amount that Peter said, which was 1,212,000 something, if I'm not mistaken.
$1,212,442.
Thank you.
Move.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
We're going to recommend to move forward the preliminary budget with 3 options, 0, 2, and 3.5 for the full board to decide.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
A motion to, we're
Oh.
going to reschedule the October
Rebecca.
13th.
Hold on.
Yes.
Rebecca.
I'm voting no.
So it's
You don't
three-
want to move forward all 3 for the full board to review?
Yeah, because
Okay,
I don't want to, I'm not into the future expenses aspect.
okay.
Those
So
budget.
we have 3 to 1.
Yeah,
Well, my issue is, Wayne, on it, that you don't have to be if you move it forward. We're doing it the whole board, and then you can say your thing that you're not for it at the time it goes forward. I mean, that's why
He's allowed to accept to say no for now. That's fine. So 3 to 1 on the moving forward all 3 options, if I'm hearing correctly.
yes.
Is that correct?
So
Yes.
it was a vote of 3 to 1 to move all 3 options forward. So we're moving them forward.
Gotcha. Okay. And we're going to move forward to reschedule our finance committee meeting from Monday, October 13th, because it is a holiday and the district is closed. And we're going to move it to Tuesday, October 14th.
I'll move.
Second.
Second. Aye.
Yeah.
Okay, we're moving forward the feasibility study with our company of choice of RLPS LLP based on the committee rubrics, that is the best option for us to do the feasibility.
So moved.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fabulous. So now we're going to move forward the items listed A through E from properties and facilities.
I'll move.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Perfect. And we're going to move forward A through C for the recommendations from education programs and resources.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
All right. And finally, our next meeting is scheduled for June 9th, 2025 at 5:30, both in person and via Zoom. And if I remember correctly from your email before we adjourn, Maggie, that you mentioned that possibly July we won't have a meeting, correct?
Let me see which one we were canceling.
July.
But June we will have, but July you were saying.
Oh. Yeah, let me look at which one we were going to cancel and we'll update that next month.
Perfect. I just wanted to clarify that before we ended.
Finance
And
on July 14th.
Wait, somebody has their,
It was EPR that we were going to cancel.
wait, somebody has their hand up.
Who is there?
Angela Burner.
Angela Burner?
Yeah, Angela
Okay.
Burner has her hand up in the,
yes, Angela.
she had her hand up. Attendees, she had her hand up.
Okay, well,
She there?
Yeah.
I don't even see her on the meeting. Okay, attendee, let me look. Hold on.
All right.
Angela, did you have a question?
I just had my hand raised because I wanted to let you know I was here if there was any questions about all of the items covered by the grants, all the DCED grants for the boiler projects and such. I just wanted to let you guys know I was here.
Awesome.
Okay,
Thank
Can I
thank
just
you,
tell you, I
Angela.
appreciate
Sorry,
everything
sorry
you do,
for- Sorry
Angela.
for the late, sorry for not seeing you until we were about to adjourn. I saw your little hand.
We appreciate you.
We appreciate you.
Angela, we appreciate you. If anything, know that we appreciate you.
Thank you. I just wanted to be here in case there were any questions about those grants and how they're going to cover, the partial costs for the main projects.
Thank you, Angela.
All right, thank you.
And
So-
Rebecca, the EPR committee that we were thinking of canceling in July, the other.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Awesome. I knew there was an email on one of the committee meetings, but I wasn't sure which one.
Thanks for reading the emails.
I try. So anything for the good of the order before we make a motion to adjourn, anybody?
So moved.
I hear a second. So I will see everybody at all the awards ceremonies and all the fun festivities coming up soon too.
Next 2 weeks are just so exciting. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a
With that
good
being
evening.
said, we adjourn.
Good
Good night,
night.
everybody.
Bye.